Be me, 32-year-old woman. I'm someone who stands up for what's right, especially when it comes to workplace equality and holding people accountable. Spent years navigating corporate culture where men got promoted faster, spoke over women in meetings, took credit for our ideas, learned to document everything, call out microaggressions, make sure my voice was heard. Became the person other women came to when they faced discrimination or uncomfortable situations. Felt like I was making a real difference, being the change I wanted to see. Then Samuel joined our team as a senior analyst. Mid-30s, came from a competitor firm, immediately got a salary I'd been denied twice. Of course he did. Watched him in meetings, always dominating conversations, that casual confidence men just have. Never questioned, never doubted, just assumed his opinions mattered. But here's the thing, he wasn't overtly terrible. Didn't make gross comments, wasn't handsy, just existed in that space of male privilege without even recognizing it, which somehow made it worse. 6 months after he joined, I applied for the director position that opened up. Been with the company 4 years, knew every client, every process, had relationships with everyone. This was supposed to be my role. Samuel applied too. Felt my stomach drop when I saw his name on the candidate list. He'd been there 6 months. I'd been building toward this for years. Told myself not to assume the worst. Maybe they'd see my experience, my dedication. The interview came. I prepared for weeks. Brought portfolio of successful projects, metrics showing my impact, testimonials from clients. Nailed every question, had answers they weren't expecting, showed strategic thinking beyond the role. Felt good walking out, like finally my work was being recognized. 2 weeks later, got called into HR. Samuel got the position. Feedback was that he showed natural leadership presence and strategic vision. The exact things I demonstrated, but apparently when I did it, it didn't count the same way. Asked what I could improve for next time, got vague answers about executive presence and gravitas. Code words, always code words. Went home and cried for 3 hours. Not pretty crying, ugly sobbing into my couch. Felt like every time I got close, the system reminded me I wasn't meant to win. Samuel sent a company-wide email about his new role, talking about collaboration and valuing all voices. Easy to value voices when yours is automatically the loudest. Tried to move past it, be professional, but everything he did started irritating me. The way he'd rephrase my ideas in meetings and everyone would suddenly pay attention. How he'd get praised for staying late when I'd been doing that for years without acknowledgement. His casual mentions of golf games with the executives, that old boys club bullshit alive and well. Then came the project crisis. Major client threatening to leave, deliverables. Behind schedule, team morale tanked. Samuel called an emergency meeting, looked stressed for the first time, started assigning blame, pointing fingers at everyone but himself. Said my work stream had caused delays that cascaded across the project. Complete lie. My team had flagged risks 2 months ago that he'd ignored because he wanted to hit unrealistic deadlines. I had emails, documentation, everything proving I'd raised these concerns, stood up in that meeting and said so. Calmly, professionally, with receipts. Showed the email chain where I'd explicitly warned about this exact scenario. Samuel got quiet, face red, everyone looking at him. Meeting ended awkwardly, people filed out avoiding eye contact. Thought maybe, finally, his incompetence would be visible. Next day, got called to HR again. Complaint filed against me for creating a hostile work environment and insubordination. Apparently challenging your director in a meeting was now a fireable offense. Sat there listening to HR read back a totally distorted version of what happened. How I'd aggressively confronted Samuel, undermined his authority, made the team uncomfortable. Showed them my documentation, the emails, the proof. They nodded, said they'd consider it, but I could see that it didn't matter. His word as director carried more weight. Got put on a performance improvement plan. Me, who'd never had anything but stellar reviews. Suddenly, I was the problem employee. Watched Samuel continue like nothing happened, playing the victim to anyone who'd listen. Heard through the grapevine, he told executives I was difficult to work with and resistant to feedback. My reputation, 4 years of credibility being dismantled to cover his ass. Started having panic attacks before work. Couldn't sleep. Constantly anxious. Felt like I was losing my mind. Friends told me to lawyer up, file complaints, fight back through proper channels. But I'd seen how those channels worked. HR protected the company, and the company had invested in Samuel. Felt so powerless, so fucking powerless. Every avenue I was supposed to use, every proper procedure designed to protect people like him. Then something shifted in me. Not a good shift, looking back. Started thinking about how men like Samuel never really faced consequences, how the system bent over backward to excuse them, protect them, promote them, while women who fought back got labeled difficult, emotional, problematic. Thought about all the times I'd played by the rules and lost, documented properly, spoke up professionally, followed procedures, and where had it gotten me? On a PIP, reputation destroyed, watching my career implode. Started researching, going down internet rabbit holes late at night, reading about men who'd finally faced accountability, noticed how only one type of accusation really stuck, really mattered. Could be incompetent, mediocre, even discriminatory and get away with it. But certain accusations, those actually had consequences. Started thinking dangerous thoughts. What if Samuel faced real accountability? What if I used the one weapon that actually worked? Told myself I was just exploring the idea, not serious, but kept thinking about it, planning it out in my head. Knew it was wrong, but the anger had rotted something inside me. Convinced myself he deserved it for what he'd done to my career. Convinced myself this was justice, evening the scales. Convinced myself a lot of things that weren't true. 3 weeks later, filed a police report. Said Samuel had sexually assaulted me at a company happy hour 2 months prior. Chose a date we'd actually both been there, made it believable. Said he'd cornered me in the hallway near the bathrooms, forced himself on me, touched me, without consent. Made myself cry. Telling it, method acted trauma I didn't have. Police were sympathetic, said they believed me. Started an investigation. Filed an HR complaint simultaneously, detailed incident report. Watched the machinery activate exactly as I knew it would. Samuel got immediately suspended pending investigation, saw his face when security walked him out, confused and terrified. Felt a surge of satisfaction. Finally he was scared. Finally he understood powerlessness. Told myself he'd brought this on himself. Company took it seriously because they had to. Liability and optics. Detective called me multiple times for statements. Stuck to my story, added details each time to make it more real. Said I'd been afraid to come forward because of his position over me, which was ironic, using real dynamics of power to fabricate a lie. My co-workers rallied around me, women who'd also been frustrated with Samuel, who believed this fit a pattern. Even though there was no pattern, I'd created the appearance of one. Felt sick accepting their support, their anger, on my behalf, but also felt validated, like, see, everyone knows men like him are capable of this. Convinced myself I was probably right, even if the specific incident was invented. The mental gymnastics were Olympic level. Samuel hired a lawyer, denied everything, said he'd barely interacted with me that night, started pulling evidence, asking for witnesses, security footage. Felt my stomach drop when his lawyer mentioned cameras. Hadn't thought about cameras. Fuck. But the bar had shitty coverage. Hallway near bathrooms wasn't clearly visible. Got lucky there, if you can call it luck. His lawyer started digging into my background, my complaints about the promotion, the PIP, creating a narrative that I was retaliatory, vindictive, which was true, but that didn't mean he could prove it. Saw articles about the case in local business news. Rising director accused of sexual assault by colleague. Watched his LinkedIn profile picture disappear, his professional reputation imploding in real time, mutual contacts removing connections with him. Exactly what I wanted, and it felt hollow. Because he was confused, genuinely confused. Not the reaction of a guilty man covering his ass. The reaction of someone who had no idea why this was happening. Started having nightmares about his face when security escorted him out. Told myself to stay strong. I'd committed now. Detective kept investigating, asking for phone records, emails, any communication between us. Didn't have much. We'd mostly interacted in professional contexts. Became a he said, she said situation. Prosecutor's office got involved, reviewing the case. They seemed skeptical, asked pointed questions. Why did I wait 2 months? Why file after the PIP? Why no witnesses? Gave answers about trauma, fear, processing time. Used language I'd learned from actual survivors. Felt disgusting doing it. But it worked well enough to keep the investigation open. Samuel's wife left him, heard about it through the office gossip chain. She'd taken their 2 kids and moved in with her parents. Even his family didn't believe him. Felt a crack in my conviction. Those kids didn't do anything. They were losing their father over my lie. Pushed the thought away, told myself collateral damage. He should have thought about that. But should have thought about what? He didn't do anything. The cognitive dissonance was breaking me. Started drinking more, alone in my apartment, avoiding friends who wanted to check on me, support me through trauma. Couldn't look them in the eye anymore. Meanwhile, Samuel's lawyer was building his case, subpoenaed my therapy records, which didn't exist for this because it didn't happen. Tried to get my medical records from around that time, looking for evidence of assault. Obviously found nothing. His lawyer was good, systematic, building timeline of my complaints and setbacks, showing clear motive for fabrication. Prosecutor called me in, much less sympathetic this time. Laid out problems with my story, inconsistencies in timing, lack of physical evidence. Asked directly if I was sure about my accusation. Could have backed out then, said I misremembered. Was confused. But I'd gone too far, would face consequences for false reporting. Doubled down instead. Got indignant. Said they were protecting him like everyone always protects men. Used my real anger about real things to fuel a lie. Prosecutor looked disgusted with me, not him. Told me they were continuing investigation, but I should prepare for possibility of no charges. Felt the ground shifting under me. Back at work, I'd been transferred to different team, away from Samuel's department. Special accommodations for my trauma. Coworkers treated me delicately, like I might break. Hated it, hated them, hated myself. Started making mistakes in my work, couldn't concentrate. The PIP was still active, performance actually declining now. Whole thing had consumed my life and destroyed the career I'd been trying to save. 6 months into investigation, Samuel's lawyer found something. My personal laptop search history, subpoenaed through my internet provider, showed I'd researched how to file sexual assault report, and he said she said assault cases 2 days before the alleged incident. Not after, like someone processing trauma would. Before. Prosecutor called, said they were closing the case, no charges. Furthermore, they were referring it to DA for potential false reporting charges against me. My hands shook holding the phone. Asked what that meant, she said I could face criminal charges myself. Up to 3 years in prison in this state. Hung up and threw up in my trash can. Samuel's lawyer sent letter to my employer with the evidence. Got called to HR. They had the search history, the prosecutor's statement. Asked if I wanted to explain. Couldn't. Just sat there silent. Terminated for cause, effective immediately. Violation of code of conduct, making false accusations, damaging company reputation. Walked out with a box of my desk items. 4 years gone. No severance, no references. Reputation destroyed in the industry. Samuel was reinstated with full back pay and public apology from the company. Saw the announcement email on my phone before they killed my access. He didn't even want to come back. Negotiated an exit package instead. Took a role at another firm, fresh start, away from the catastrophe I'd created. While I was unemployed, facing potential criminal charges, completely radioactive in my field. His wife had already filed for divorce, though. That damage was permanent. His kids would grow up knowing their dad was accused of assault, even though exonerated. The stain doesn't wash off completely. I'd made sure of that. DA ultimately decided not to prosecute me, not because I didn't deserve it, but because they said it would discourage real victims from coming forward. Ironic, since I'd already done that by weaponizing their trauma, but I was spared prison, just had to live with what I'd done. Months passed, couldn't find work in my field. Background checks revealed the termination. Word had spread about why. Burned through savings, had to move to smaller apartment. Lost most of my friends who felt betrayed, lied to, used. The ones who'd supported me through the assault felt especially violated. Sat alone most days, replaying everything, seeing where I'd crossed lines I couldn't uncross. Thought about Samuel constantly, what I'd taken from him, his marriage, time with his kids, his reputation, sense of safety, all because he got a promotion I wanted, because the system was unfair and I decided to be more unfair. Tried to justify it, he had benefited from patriarchy, wasn't totally innocent, but innocent of what I'd accused him of, which was all that mattered. The feminism I'd claimed to believe in was about justice, equality, truth. And I'd perverted it into a weapon for personal revenge, made it harder for every woman who'd really been assaulted to be believed. Became the false accuser that skeptics always warned about, proved their worst assumptions true. 6 months after everything imploded, got a job in a different city, different field, administrative work, beneath my qualifications, but no one knew me there. Kept my head down, didn't talk about my past, didn't make waves. The person who'd always spoken up, fought back, demanded accountability was gone. Because I'd learned I couldn't trust my own sense of justice. Sometimes saw articles about false accusations, the damage they cause. Used to dismiss those as rare, overblown, missing the forest for the trees. Now I was a statistic, the exception that proved the rule. Made it worse for everyone. Tried reaching out to Samuel once, typed apology email I never sent. What could I possibly say that would matter? Sorry I destroyed your family because you got a job I wanted. Sorry I used sexual assault as a career strategy. Sorry I'm exactly the monster people fear when they doubt women. Deleted the draft. He deserved to never hear from me again. Therapy helped somewhat, unpacking why I'd done it. The powerlessness, the rage, the entitlement to revenge. Belief that my pain justified any retaliation. That being a victim of systemic injustice meant I couldn't victimize others. Learned those were all lies I'd told myself. 2 years later now, different person in some ways. Work my mediocre job. Go home. Don't get involved. See workplace unfairness and stay quiet because I've lost the moral authority to speak. That might be the worst consequence, silencing myself forever. Think about the women at my old company who needed someone to advocate. Can't be that person anymore. Ruined it. Sometimes wonder if Samuel thinks about that night. The accusation. If he flinches when women enter his office, keeps doors open, records conversations. The permanent defensive crouch of someone falsely accused. I did that to him, me, with my principles and my feminism and my conviction that I was fighting the good fight. Became exactly what I claimed to oppose. Someone who abused power dynamics for personal gain. Someone who treated another person as collateral damage in my narrative. Someone who believed the ends justified the means until the means destroyed everything. Just living with it, trying to be better, knowing I can't undo the harm. Supporting survivors of actual assault financially now, anonymously, it's not enough. Nothing's enough. This is my confession, my truth, my unforgivable mistake. I am what I hate, and I have to live with that forever.